Ahoy there, shipmates, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. Why Rear Admiral? You have to ask. Anyway, today we're going to be taking a look at the American Tier 2 cruiser, the Chester. First of her class. In fact, the Chester was actually the first light cruiser built for the US Navy and had the distinction of escorting the Carpathia back to New York after she picked up the survivors from the Titanic. So, a little bit of history there for you. The USS Chester, first of her class, named after the town of Chester in Pennsylvania. World War I vintage ship, as you can tell immediately just by looking at it. She was launched in 1907, commissioned into the US Navy in 1908. She saw service during the First World War and was decommissioned in 1921 and sold off for scrap in 1930. So what do you need to know about the Chester? Well, she has no armour whatsoever. Minimum of 6mm, maximum of 19mm. This thing, well, this is why it's a light cruiser and not an armoured or protected cruiser like the St. Louis. She has 15,100 health, which isn't a lot, but it's still more than a Tier 7 destroyer. So what about the firepower? Well, initially it's a little disappointing. The Chester is armed with, there it is, 4 127mm guns and 4 76.2mm guns. The 127 mils, main batteries are located on the forecastle up here, and then there's one midships, both port and starboard side, and then there's one all the way at the rear here. The secondary armament are situated in gun ports at the stern on both sides and in barbettes here and here. So not particularly impressive. She also gets no anti-aircraft guns. So what can we do about that? Well, we go for the hull upgrade. The 1917 refit version of the Chester significantly increased the firepower available. She gained an extra 2, she now has 6 127mm guns. She has 2 additional 76mm guns, as well as the existing 4 76.2mm guns. You can further upgrade the firepower of the ship by replacing the main batteries with 152mm guns. And you can see right there. If we have a look at the 127 mils, maximum high explosive shell damage 1070, maximum armor piercing shell damage 2370. With the 152mm, you get a significant buff to your firepower. You can now do 1440 damage with a high explosive shell and 3340 maximum damage with an armor piercing shell. So that's pretty impressive. So what's the actual firepower like? Well, let's have a look at the stock 127mm guns. They have a rate of fire of 7.5 rounds per minute. They take 12 seconds to rotate 180 degrees. They will miss the target by at most 91 meters. Now that might seem pretty bad, but it's actually not. When you start driving battleships, battleship drivers wished they only had 91 meters maximum dispersion. The dispersion on the battleship's guns are measured in hundreds of meters. 91 meters is actually not bad at all. Chance of fire on target caused by firing a high explosive shell is only 4%, and your maximum firing range is 8.4 kilometers. Now, these are the values for the stock 127mm guns. When you upgrade to the 152mm guns, and don't forget to get there, you have to go via the hull upgrade, which gives you an extra 2 gun batteries. The 152mm guns, well, they still have a 7.5 round per minute rate of fire. Unfortunately, they now take significantly longer to rotate and actually aim the guns at the target. It's now gone up to 22.5 seconds to rotate the guns 180 degrees. The maximum dispersion is still only 91 meters. You get an extra 3% to your chance of setting the target on fire with high explosive ammunition for 7% chance in total, and it still has an 8.4 kilometer firing range. So, what about the secondary batteries? Well, the secondary armament, consisting of the 76.2mm guns, will start to engage enemy ships if they close to within 2.5 kilometers. It's exactly the same with the hull upgrade, which features additional 76.2mm guns. They also have a 2.5 kilometer engagement range. What else do you need to know? Well, remember your 8.4 kilometer maximum firing range. The Chester has a surface detectability range of 8.5 kilometers. This is the range at which the ship can be detected and identified by an enemy ship, so fairly balanced. From the air, the detectability range is 5 kilometers. As far as maneuverability is concerned, it's not that bad actually. Maximum speed of 26 knots. There is no propulsion system upgrade on the Chester. The stock engine is all you get. Turning circle radius of 760 meters, and the rudder shift time of 6.6 seconds is actually pretty quick. The rudder shift time is how long it takes the rudder to turn from full port to full starboard. 6.6 seconds is not bad at all. So it's certainly not destroyer standard maneuverability, but a 26 knot speed is all right, and it turns pretty quickly, so not too bad at all. So it seems like a capable little ship, and it is a little ship. This is only a tier 2 ship, and I should of course hasten to add that there's absolutely no guarantee that any of these values will be the same a month from now. The game is of course in closed beta. In fact, the Chester may not even make it into the final release of the game. There are certain ships that were available in the closed alpha that are no longer around in the closed beta. Things will change, but as far as things stand at the moment, that's what you have with the Chester. It's not a bad little ship. It's certainly not bristling with firepower the way its big brother is, or big sister rather, these are ships after all, the St. Louis at tier 3. But it's a reasonably well-armed little ship, and it's pretty useful in a fight, as we're going to show you. This is not actually the typical kind of match you can expect to get into in a Chester. It's a cooperative battle, so it's players against AI, but it's a very unusual cooperative battle because it's a tier 5 game. This was very, very early on in the closed beta, and somebody in a Congo on our team decided that he wanted to play a co-op battle. Not many people were sitting in the cooperative battle queue, so the matchmaker just did what it could, and I ended up in a tier 5 co-op game. However, that does make this a particularly good example to show you just what the Chester can do. It's by no means the St. Louis, which you get at tier 3. The St. Louis is absolutely bristling with firepower, but this is not a bad little ship, as you're going to see. Successfully defended the cap and hit that enemy destroyer. We've got a destroyer going ahead in a cover of smoke. We spotted one of their carriers. Torpedo bombers coming in. Our carrier has put up a very, very impressive defensive fighter screen, which meant there were only 2 of those torpedo bombers that survived. And it's pretty easy to dodge 2 torpedoes. I'm trying to lob some shots over the headland there and hit that other destroyer. And that is a St. Louis, and that is a Langley class aircraft carrier. Now, the St. Louis is going to be an issue. I've scored a hit on him with high explosive, but he's engaging somebody else and he's on fire. I want to try to nail that carrier before he gets another airstrike off. You can see he's recovering his torpedo bombers, which gives me about 30 seconds before he can service them and get them back in the air again. But that St. Louis is getting closer. You can see what high explosive does to a carrier like the Langley. I mean, the Langley was actually a coal ship. It was a tramp steamer that they stuck a flight deck on top of. So it has no armour at all. High explosive, as you can see right there. I've knocked out his engines. It causes all kinds of problems to these things. I'd probably better kill this St. Louis though. He's getting awfully close. If I get much closer, I'm going to end up in range of his secondary batteries, and then I'll start taking hits, regardless of who he's actually concentrating on. So, yeah, we got it. Now, the carrier managed to launch another airstrike. You can just see them up there on the top of the screen. They appear to be heading off in the other direction, so I'm going to keep bombarding this carrier. He doesn't have a lot of health left. Now, there's an enemy destroyer, and it's a Japanese destroyer, so it's going to be bristling with torpedo launchers. Well, not bristling, but it's going to have better range torpedo launchers than an equivalent American destroyer, which means I am in his torpedo range. So I have to expect torpedoes incoming. I'm actually going full astern here, trying to make sure I stay lined up nicely on that carrier. And whoa, 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 whoa! I did not expect that. That's bad news. Okay, I was so concentrated on keeping an eye on the torpedoes coming from my starboard side, I did not expect to see a spread of torpedoes coming in from the front. So I used the damage repair team. Stops the flooding. I took a lot of damage there. Second destroyer. Keep losing him in the smoke. He's trying to engage me with the guns. That's a bad idea, but he's probably also launched torpedoes. Yep, there they are. That was a bad shot. Steaming full ahead. We'll finish him off. No, I missed, but he's gone. Friendly cruiser took him out. So, everything appears to be going quite well. We've only lost 2 ships. We've lost a battleship, which is bad news, and we've lost a destroyer, but the enemy team only have 3 ships left. There's one of their destroyers. He's on very, very low health. Let's attempt to sink him before he can do any further damage. What could possibly go wrong? Well, that enemy battleship is a Tier 5 Congo class battleship. He has 8 14-inch guns. That guy could one-shot kill me even if I was on full health. And I'm not on full health. So, oh, and they've just nailed one of our cruisers. This is not good. We've got a very good aircraft carrier driver. He's been, well, as you can see here, there's a great torpedo strike going in. He's managed to nail this guy from 2 different sides. That's an absolutely perfect textbook torpedo strike. The only problem is he's only a Langley class aircraft carrier, and air-launched torpedoes do not do as much damage as ship-launched torpedoes. Your typical ship-launched torpedo is a 610mm torpedo. The ones that are dropped from aircraft are, by necessity, a hell of a lot lighter, and they don't do nearly as much damage. I think our carrier driver ends up hitting this Congo 22 times with his torpedoes, and it doesn't sink him. So, oh crap, another destroyer. He's engaging him with guns. He's far too close. Now, because I was aiming at the battleship, I had armor piercing loaded, so that shot only did, well, minimal damage. But I'm switching back to high explosive. He's made a critical error here. He realised he was about to run aground, and so he stopped, and now he's reversing. He's just, I can't miss. There we go, got him. So, the enemy team, I mean, a minute ago, we'd only lost 2 ships. They have 3 left. And I'm now within secondary gun range of this Congo. You can see his anti-aircraft batteries are opening up as another airstrike goes in on him. I'm switching back to armor piercing, but I'm just not penetrating his armor. Armor piercing strike there only did 112 damage. The only thing that's really keeping me alive right now is that Congo is not focusing his main batteries on me. That was just damage taken from his secondary guns. Now his secondary guns are bigger than my main battery guns. That's how one-sided this fight actually is. Myself and this other cruiser are... Well, it wouldn't really matter if we were on full health anyway, because, as I said, one salvo from the 14-inch guns on that battleship can sink either of us, even if we were on full health. He's heading for our carrier. We have to go for it. If he sinks our carrier, where next? The carrier is the only thing that's keeping us in this game. So the Tier 2 Chester is going to face off against the Tier 5 Congo battleship. Now, there we go. Now that's some big damage. That's the damage potential of your armor-piercing shells. Well, sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. Now he's eating. Look at this. Look at the amount of torpedo hits this thing's taking. My armor-piercing shells are actually doing more damage to him than the torpedo strikes. Oh crap! Here come his main battery guns, and he's knocked out my engine. I have to repair that. I cannot be sitting here dead in the water. I'm now in range of his secondary batteries. All of these shots that you can see coming in, these are from his secondary battery guns. His main batteries are pointing this way, but they've got a very, very, very slow reload. But he's just nickel and diming away my health. The secondary batteries received a bit of an accuracy nerf when the game went from alpha into beta. But he's got a lot of them. And it doesn't take a lot with the health that I'm on. Come on, another torpedo strike. Peppering him with armor-piercing shells. Looks like only one of those torpedoes hit, but he's on very, very low health. Come on. Come on. Just sink, will you? That's probably the last salvo I'm going to get off. Minimal damage, but on the bright side, he can't shoot at me anymore either. It's a tier 2 cruiser going up against a tier 5 battleship. A tier 2 cruiser against a tier 2 battleship, if such a thing existed. Battleships start at tier 3, but you know, that would be bad enough, because killing cruisers is what battleships are for. That guy's tier 5. And somehow, the Chester is still floating and fighting. Look at the state of this Chester. The only thing holding it together is the rust of the paint. And the Congo's coming around again for another go. And I am now closer to him than the carrier, so he's going to be aiming for me. We've lost the other cruiser. Shots out. I didn't want to live forever anyway. Oh, it's a good hit. It's not good enough though. And here comes his main batteries. Come on, dodge, dodge. This is where the above average maneuverability of the Chester comes in very, very handy, and is pretty much the only thing that keeps me alive. There's another good hit, but this guy's got 50,000 health. If I can just keep him occupied long enough for the carrier to get another airstrike off. Oh god, here comes the main battery guns again. Come on, maneuver the other way. Don't hit me, don't hit me. Oh, there goes his anti-aircraft guns. Torpedo strike on the way, there they are. Come on, come on. There's one. Yes, they got him. They got him. Some great play from our carrier pilot. But I didn't do too badly either. Have a look at the medal ribbons there at the top of the screen. Defended the base 6 times. Scored 103 hits. Set ships on fire twice. 2 citadel penetrations, 1 crit, and I've sunk 2 of them. I'm a tier 2 cruiser. This is a tier 5 game. That's not bad at all. You can't get that kind of result in a bad ship, no matter how good you are. The Chester is not a bad ship at all. Unfortunately, they still have 1 cruiser left, and well, we have no idea where he is, and I only have 3,500 health left. And let's not forget, the Langley is just a coal transport with a flight deck welded on top. We could still lose this if we go chasing after that guy, especially since we have no idea where he is. So we very wisely decide that we're going to win this out by capping, especially since there's less than 6 minutes of this game left. And we never do see the enemy cruiser, and that's pretty much how this game ends. So that's a victory for the underdog in a tier 5 cooperative battle in World of Warships. So that was the USS Chester, the tier 2 cruiser, the first proper cruiser that you get your hands on in the US Navy tech tree in World of Warships. It's a very, very well-armed little ship. Leads on to the St. Louis at tier 3, which is even more well-armed. You should probably be getting the impression by now that the US Navy ships in World of Warships are gunfighters, and that is very much the case, especially with the American cruisers. The gun firepower on these ships is very, very good indeed. You get a taste of it here at tier 2, and oh boy, wait until you see the St. Louis. The stock St. Louis has better firepower than a fully upgraded Chester. It's a fantastic ship, and we'll be taking a look at it in a future video. As always, folks, take care, and I'll catch you next time.